This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
On guard in D.C. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. The National Guard now patrolling the streets of the nation's capital, helping to fight crime and reduce homelessness. They are acting on the orders of the Commander-in-Chief. Correspondent Garrett Hake gets us started from Washington.
Overnight, hundreds of National Guard troops deployed across Washington, D.C., surging into the city to complement the D.C. police, now under federal control for 30 days. The Guardsmen taking up positions at some of the capital's most iconic landmarks, including the Washington Monument.
The head of the Washington, D.C. Police Union supports this ramped-up law enforcement effort. Greg Pemberton says crime is a problem in the District of Columbia.
Anyone that lives, works, or travels to D.C. knows that crime is ubiquitous. It exists in every quadrant of the city, and when you go outside, particularly at night, it's palpable. We're still averaging around 200 homicides. Last night we had our 100th homicide, just barely halfway through the year.
The Pentagon says the Guard troops will only be used in a support role. They won't be making any arrests, and most will not even be armed. Now to crime news south of the border. Mexico has just extradited 26 high-ranking drug smugglers who will face justice here in the United States.
The Mexican government is now cooperating with the U.S. government because it does not want U.S. forces going into Mexico to take care of the cartels, which have been a direct threat and have been terrorizing Americans, and which this administration is clearly not going to tolerate it.
Rebecca Heinrichs is a foreign policy expert at the Hudson Institute.
When the Trump administration designated the cartels as a foreign terrorist organization, the Mexican government got incredibly nervous about that because that gives incredible power to the U.S. government to pursue the cartels.
One of the accused was implicated in the murder of an L.A. County Sheriff's deputy. Many who were extradited will be eligible for the death penalty. In the run-up to Friday's Alaska summit with Russian ruler Vladimir Putin, President Trump speaks today with Ukraine's head of state, Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump's trying to get Russia and Ukraine to come to an agreement on a ceasefire.
This is for the president to go and to get, again, a more firm and better understanding of how we can hopefully bring this war to an end.
White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt says the bilateral talks between Trump and Putin will happen at a U.S. military base in Anchorage. Our coverage continues with reporter Weijia Jiang.
The hope is that it will lead to a three-way meeting with those two leaders, plus Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Zelensky continues to question, though, Putin's motives and said he believes the Russian leader is just looking for photo ops with Trump.
Friday's summit will mark the first time that Vladimir Putin will step foot on U.S. soil in about a decade. Israel says Hamas terrorists are disguising themselves as aid workers to provoke attacks from the IDF, and it's working, says reporter Trey Yinks.
Newly released drone video shows Palestinian militants pretending to be workers from the World Central Kitchen. They travel in two cars, one marked with the flag of the humanitarian organization, before they're hit by IDF airstrikes.
The Israeli bombing campaign is expected to ramp up in the coming days as its army prepares for an expanded ground operation to encircle Gaza City. The White House has ordered a review of the Smithsonian museums to align content with the president's interpretation of American history.
A White House letter to Secretary of the Smithsonian Institution Lonnie Bunch follows up on President Trump's March executive order calling for the removal of what he termed improper ideology. It's timed with next year's 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence in mind. The letter states the aim is to celebrate American exceptionalism and remove what it calls partisan or divisive narratives. The Smithsonian says it remains committed to factual history and is reviewing the letter. Michael Toscano, Washington.
Strong rip currents drowned a man this week in Seaside Heights, New Jersey. Police Chief Thomas Boyd says you should never go into the water when lifeguards are not on duty.
You might have people that think they know the ocean better than we do. I was born and raised here. The ocean is a very dangerous playground. And if you're not paying attention, it'll take you like that.
There was also a drowning off the coast of Brooklyn. A 55-year-old woman was killed. Reporter Nikki Petit says the rip currents this summer have been especially dangerous up and down the East Coast.
Long Branch, New Jersey told us that 262 rescues were made just over the weekend. Belmar, New Jersey, 49 rescues. The police chief here told me just this weekend there were about 30 other rescues at this beach. And at New York City beaches, 160 rescues all summer.
2 people were drowned in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina in less than a week. YouTube is the latest high-tech company to announce that it intends to use artificial intelligence to detect whether a user is under the age of 18. Here's CNET's Ian Shure.
Artificial intelligence is very good at identifying patterns, and having an AI effectively try to find people who are lying about their age on social media is a very effective use of it.
Initial testing begins today on a limited number of YouTube users. Pete Alonso is the new home run king of the New York Mets. He hit 2 long balls last night in a win over the Braves. His 254 career home runs as a Met breaks the record that used to be held by Darryl Strawberry, a record that goes back nearly 40 years. Still to come on the Noon Report, a midweek edition. Little League World Series starts today. Kodak's future is a bit murky, and how the high hard heat of late is impacting this year's apple crop.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, tracking a few showers and thunderstorms out there today. We'll have forecast details up in 10.
All right, Kevin, thank you very much. The rain, a welcome sight today. And let's check the stories making news where you live next. The Pennsylvania state budget is now 7 weeks late, and there's no end in sight to the fiscal stalemate. Republicans in the state Senate passed their own version of a spending bill yesterday, but it's dead on arrival in the Democrat-controlled House.
We do need to pass a budget, and this mass transit issue has taken over all of the energy in the room, and it's irritating because there's still schools and hospitals and nursing homes. Everything still needs to be funded.
Senate President Kim Ward says lawmakers should pass a partial budget now, which funds non-contested items and leave the tougher issues like mass transit for a later date. Pennsylvania lawmakers are not due back in Harrisburg until next month. A new Siena poll shows New York Governor Kathy Hochul's lead over potential GOP challenger Elise Stefanik is shrinking. It's still sizable, just not as sizable, says pollster Steve Greenberg.
And we have to remember, Kathy Hochul won 3 years ago against Lee Zeldin, but only by 6 points, the closest gubernatorial election in a generation.
The Siena survey shows Hochul's leading Stefanik by 14 points right now. That's almost a 10-point drop from June. Stefanik, who represents New York's North Country in Congress, has yet to formally enter the gubernatorial race. A former security guard is facing charges for allegedly threatening Little League International and ESPN. Williamsport, Pennsylvania police say 20-year-old Isaiah Randall texted his supervisor, and we're quoting here, "You better have heavy security," and "I will be back." He texted that after he was fired by a private security firm at Little League headquarters. Randall then reportedly posted a countdown timer titled Mass Casualty Event on social media, and he tagged ESPN, Little League, and his former employer. The Little League World Series begins today in Williamsport. One of upstate New York's most historic and well-known companies is facing a fuzzy financial future. We're talking about Rochester-based Kodak. During its heyday, Kodak was the largest maker of film and cameras anywhere in the world. And now, due to the advent of digital devices, that 133-year-old company is a shadow of its former self. Jim Brennan runs a photo supply shop in the Flower City.
Kind of scary thinking that a company that as big as they were could possibly no longer exist. But, you know, they've gone through hard times before, so we just got to keep our fingers crossed thinking thinking that this may just be one of those hard times.
Kodak says due to mounting debt, it is ending employee pension plans.
Kodak retirees won't lose their pension, but if you're a current Kodak employee, you'll no longer have a pension.
Financial expert George Conboy says despite the debt, he remains optimistic that Kodak will be able to find a way to stay in business. The SUNY Reconnect program is paying dividends in New York. It offers free tuition at SUNY schools for anyone ages 25 to 55 who pursue degrees in high-demand fields. Governor Kathy Hochul.
Just since we started getting the word out, just since a few months ago when this became the law of New York State, we have over 16,000 people who've already signed up for this, and these are the lives that we're going to be changing forever.
To get the free degree, you must apply for one of 11 in-demand fields such as nursing, advanced manufacturing, or AI. There's more information available on SUNY's website. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro toured that steel factory yesterday near Pittsburgh, where a deadly explosion happened on Monday.
This was a human tragedy that we lost 2 lives here yesterday at this plant, that there are others who remain hospitalized and injured.
The governor vowing to get to the bottom of what went wrong.
We owe them an answer for what happened. We owe them the answers to their questions.
The cause of that blast is still under review. Police are sounding the alarm about the safety concerns surrounding e-bikes. They're becoming more popular, but they pose a serious risk on highways. E-bike accidents are on the rise, and increasingly, it's children and teens who are being killed or injured. Cops say you must be 16 or older to operate an e-bike. They're not allowed on highways where the posted speed limit exceeds 30 miles an hour. You should also always wear a helmet while operating an e-bike. The Chautauqua County, New York Health Department is warning residents today about harmful algae blooms in Chautauqua and Findlay Lakes.
Know it, avoid it, report it. So the first step that everybody should do is take some time to familiarize themselves with what a harmful algal bloom is.
Jessica Worskell is the director of Chautauqua County's Environmental Health Services. She says algae blooms thrive in warm and sunny summers.
We haven't had a whole lot of stormy weather that would, cause some waves and currents and break this stuff up at all. So some of these blooms, especially in the southern basin, are likely to stick around until there's a real significant change in weather.
Chautauqua County Executive P.J. Wendell says exposure to these algae blooms can cause a rash on your skin, gastrointestinal issues, or respiratory problems.
Listen to the health department. If they say stay out, please stay out. It could be harmful or fatal to animals.
Officials stress if a person or an animal gets exposed to an algae bloom, you should rinse off with soap and water. The hot, dry weather of late's been a mixed blessing for New York's apple industry. The Empire State is the second leading apple producer in the nation. Laura Tenike runs an apple orchard in Albany County. She says apples, like people, can get sunburned.
The branches are really kind of pruned back. The apples may get too much sun, and then it's sort of a scalding scar on the skin.
But there is an upside to the dry weather. It helps concentrate the sugar content in apples, making them taste even better.
One problem we have when we get too much rain is the apples really get big, and their sugar content kind of gets dispersed, and they're not as good. So, it's sort of a trade-off one way or the other.
Tenike says the hotter and drier the weather, the sweeter the apple. Also, the dry spell this year has not hurt the size of the crop in New York. A wet spring did help avoid drought conditions. We've got sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on Family Life.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, the big bets came to life for the Yankees as they dominated the Minnesota Twins 9-1. Giancarlo Stanton had the biggest night, going 4 for 5 with a home run and 3 ribbies. Aaron Judge and Anthony Volpe also went deep, and Carlos Rodon tossed 7 stellar innings, only allowing 1 hit and 1 run. And back to Aaron Judge for a moment. His blast was the first home run in 3 weeks for him. The Yankees are hopeful. That's a glimpse of things to come. Speaking of home runs, the New York Mets have a new home run king. Pete Alonso blasted 2 of them in the Amazins' 13-5 rout of the Atlanta Braves. Alonso's home runs gave him 253 in his career, moving him past Darryl Strawberry. The Phillies were shut out by the Reds in Cincinnati 6-1. Bryce Harper hit a solo shot in the 9th for Philadelphia's lone run. The Pirates sent their ace against the major's hottest team, and he could not cool them off. Both Sal Frelick and Bryce Terang took him deep, and the rout was on. 14-0 the final. Christian Yelich, Andrew Vaughn, and Caleb Durbin also hit home runs, and that pushed the Brewers' win streak to 11. In Cleveland, another home run record set by Jose Ramirez. He became the Guardians' leader in multi-home run games after hitting 2 against the Marlins. Ramirez's second shot came in the 8th inning and gave Cleveland a 4-3 lead, and that stood up for the victory. It was Ramirez's 27th multi-homer game in his career. Other winners, the Red Sox, Mariners, White Sox, Rockies, Padres, Blue Jays, Royals, D-backs, and Angels. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy Man, thank you. And still to come on the Noon Report, preparing for Putin, getting the kids college ready. And at the end of the broadcast, we're celebrating Southpaws.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. Elizabeth Eaton, Bishop of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, recently announced that the denomination is dropping the filioque clause from its liturgy. According to Eaton, the change is part of a 40-year-long quest for better relationship with various Eastern Orthodox groups. She called the move a significant breakthrough toward reconciliation to heal age-old divisions. She rejoiced that the filioque is no longer church dividing. What Bishop Eaton did not argue is that the change was doctrinally necessary or that the new position brings the denomination closer to biblical truth. Instead, she appealed to, and I quote, unity in the body of Christ, something that the ELCA has clearly been willing to violate and sacrifice for many other concerns, especially homosexuality. As pastor and creator of Lutheran satire Hans Fien put it on X, quote, things the ELCA will give up to heal divisions with the Orthodox, the filioque. Things the ELCA will not give up to heal divisions with the Orthodox, sin. The word filioque is Latin for and the Son, as in, quote, we believe in the Holy Spirit, the Lord and giver of life, who proceeds from the Father and the Son. This is from the Nicene Creed, a widely accepted summary of Christian doctrine that emerged from the Council of Nicaea in AD 325 and was finalized at the Council of Constantinople in AD 381. The original text of the creed read only, who proceeds from the Father. However, over subsequent generations, Western Christians included and the Son. Eastern Christians did not. Now, these 3 words, in English, just one in Latin, carry enormous theological weight. Though other issues were at play, this was the final straw that led to mutual excommunications by the Pope in Rome and the Patriarch in Constantinople in 1054. For Western Christians, these words are about preserving the unity of the Trinity. The Holy Spirit is the Spirit of Christ, who always works in the name of Christ. For Eastern Christians, it's a question of authority. For both, the issue here is about the inner workings of the Godhead. Though certainly an issue of theological precision, the filioque is a matter of no small importance. Doctrine does divide. In fact, it should divide. Without it, we cannot clarify right from wrong, good from bad, or truth from falsehood. We should always, of course, as the Apostle Paul wrote, speak the truth in love. But we should never abandon one of those things for the sake of the other. If what is true about God matters to God, then it should also matter to us. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint. Today's Breakpoint was co-authored by Dr. Timothy Paget. And for a version of this commentary that you can print out or share digitally with others, go to colsoncenter.org/radio.
Thank you, John. Outside we go, Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life weather forecast for this afternoon into tonight. Variably cloudy and muggy. A couple of showers and thunderstorms around. High in the 80s, a low in the 60s. Tomorrow, Could still be a shower central and eastern Pennsylvania and south central New York, but some sun mixed in with lowering humidity. High temps, upper 70s to mid 80s. Beauty on Friday, lots of sunshine, low humidity, and a high temperature in the lower 80s.
All right, thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price. Great to have you with us today, Wednesday, the 13th of August. President Trump will meet face-to-face on Friday with Russia's Vladimir Putin. That get-together happens at a U.S. military base in Anchorage, Alaska. The heads of state will talk about ways to wind down the war in Ukraine. Here's reporter Olivia Gossis.
The White House is saying it is done sending envoys all over the world in order to have fruitless conversations. Now the deal-maker-in-chief, President Trump, is going to go and, in his words, feel out President Putin to determine for himself if there is some sort of opportunity for a deal.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, who wasn't invited to the meeting on Friday, says talks about us without us will not succeed. He'll hold talks today with President Trump. This get-together was organized by European leaders. And we get more on that from reporter Vicky Barker.
European leaders brainstorming among themselves and with Ukraine's President Zelensky ahead of an online call with President Trump later today. They hope they can persuade Trump to take a tough line with Putin at Friday's summit. They fear the implications for Ukraine's and for their own future security if he doesn't.
Vicky Barker in London. Hundreds of National Guard troops are on guard in Washington, D.C. They've been ordered there by the commander-in-chief to help fight crime and reduce homelessness. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt.
We are removing as many criminals from the streets, and we are cleaning up D.C. as best as we can.
NBC's Garrett Haight.
Democrats say it's all a distraction and a power grab from the president, but the White House hopes a month-long surge of federal law enforcement and a new approach to policing here can make a serious dent on crime in a city that has long struggled with it.
The Guardsmen have taken up positions at some of the Capitol's most iconic landmarks, including the Washington Monument. Most of them will not be armed or be making any arrests. The White House has instructed all the Smithsonian museums in the nation's capital to focus on American exceptionalism in the run-up to the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence.
The administration's review of some Smithsonian museums and exhibitions is part of an initiative aimed at ensuring alignment with the president's directive to celebrate American exceptionalism, remove divisive or partisan narratives, and restore confidence in our shared cultural institutions.
Correspondent Jennifer Kuiper, the Smithsonian, says it is committed to factual history and will review the White House request. The Texas State Senate's approved its version of a Republican-led congressional redistricting map. Democrats in the Texas House are still out of state. Correspondent Chris Fox.
Texas Republican House Speaker Dustin Burrows says if they're unable to get a quorum on Friday, they'll end the special session 5 days early and call a new one.
He is committed to calling us back again until our work is done.
This would start the entire process over again. Texas Governor Greg Abbott also threatening to redraw the new congressional map.
If Texas were to draw its maps the way that these Democrat states have drawn their maps, it could mean as many as maybe even 10-seat pickup.
Chris Fox, Austin.
A former security guard is facing charges for allegedly threatening Little League International and ESPN.
Police in South Williamsport, Pennsylvania say 20-year-old Isaiah Randall texted his supervisor, "You better have heavy security," and "I will be back," after he was fired by a private security firm at Little League headquarters. Randall then reportedly posted a countdown timer called Mass Casualty Event on social media and tagged ESPN, Little League, and his former employer. Authorities said Randall's actions caused the Little League World Series to divert from normal operations. I'm Michael Kastner.
All right, some scary stuff there. The Little League World Series, by the way, starts today in Williamsport. 10 teams from around the U.S. and 10 more from around the world will be competing in the 12-day double elimination tournament. The percentage of Americans who belly up to the bar is at a new all-time low.
Just over half of Americans, 54%, say they drink alcohol, a number that's a record low since Gallup first started asking the question in 1939. And for the first time in the poll's history, the majority of Americans believe even moderate alcohol consumption is bad for your health. In the 70s, more than 70% of Americans were drinkers. Women and younger adults are more likely to be teetotalers these days. I'm Rory O'Neill.
There's a large great white shark near some of Maine's most popular beaches. It's prompted police in one coastal town near Portland to issue a warning to beach goers. The Scarsboro, Maine Police Department says this shark is about 10 to 12 feet long.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
This is the Noon Report on Family Life.
Going from high school senior to college freshman can be like going from backyard pool to ocean swimming at high tide. Welcome back to another edition of Real Answers, a regular Wednesday feature during the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues that matter to families. I'm Mark Webster, along with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Welcome back, Chris.
I'm ready to be here. Let's grab our surfboard and hit those waves, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, dude. All right. Last couple of weeks, we focused on failure to launch. This time, we'll call it launch planning, maybe. How to prepare your senior teen for success as a college freshman. Now, I launched a couple of them a while back, and if memory serves, launch targets have already been pretty much decided by August. Orientation dates circled on the calendar, and cutesy dorm stuff acquired. But none of that's truly as important as getting their mind and soul ready for launch, is it?
Absolutely. And there's never been a time where we've needed to be so focused as we are right now. Our society has reached a point, our higher education system and most of the universities and colleges have reached a point where if you don't take advantage of this time right now to talk to your college-bound student, then you are really losing out on an opportunity to help solidify their faith.
In particular, if your teen is headed off to a secular institution, we have, as you mentioned, heard no shortage of stories in the news of late about how some professors, to put it mildly, aren't exactly welcoming to those with Christian faith and convictions.
It's putting it mildly, Mark, and the reality is it's not that they're not even welcoming. They're becoming more openly hostile towards students who come from a faith background, particularly a Judeo-Christian background, and your students have to be aware of that.
I did see a study by Navigators that said the friends that a student makes on their first few days on campus often can also determine the trajectory of his or her faith during those years.
Oh, absolutely. And as a parent, I highly recommend, if your student hasn't done this already, sitting down with them and looking at the school's website, looking for faith organizations that are already on campus so that you can get them plugged in right away. So get connected. Get your student connected immediately with the Christian networks on campus, and also look at churches that are in the community, see what's available, because let me tell you something, they are going to need it.
Mm-hmm. You're listening to Real Answers. I'm Mark Webster, along with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson, talking about how to best prepare our kids, quote unquote, young adults, for those first hours, days, and years in college. Following up on what you just mentioned there are some good things out there, too. We should mention that. I saw a website, everystudent.org, that helps some incoming students link up with area churches and helps them to navigate that secular environment as well. And we've seen some encouraging things happening on some campuses lately, mass baptisms, thousands of students who are out there looking for answers and finding them in Christ.
It was interesting, too, Mark, to follow up on that. We just saw this week that there were several thousand people attended a revival service in, of all places, Portland, Oregon. If it can happen there, it can happen anywhere. And the reality is we are seeing that more and more. This current generation of young folks, they're hungry for truth. And so we need to pray that, that as Christians, we take advantage of their hunger and really just pour truth into them and just really help them to find that solid foundation that we can only get through a life really dedicated to Christ.
Yeah, back when I was going to college, the theme was fight for your right to party. These days, it's more like fight for your right to practice your faith.
To just speak. Absolutely, absolutely. When I was in school, I could tell there were some philosophical differences back when I was in school, but goodness, there was never a time that even any of my college professors, when I'm thinking back to my undergraduate years, there was never a time that I felt like I wasn't allowed to be myself. But that is completely not true today. And sadly, students do have to watch what they say.
All right, Coach, a final pep talk before we send them into the whole new game there. I think the biggest thing when you come down to it is dealing with a level of freedom and autonomy that, kids to that point haven't had, and that's daunting for anybody. So best advice.
It really is. And, regardless of the current conditions of our society, students striking out on their own are going to have to learn to manage their time. One of the best things I can tell young folks right now is whatever you do, don't procrastinate. Keep on top of your assignments. That was one of the best things I did. It really made things a lot easier.
I wish you'd have been around when I was going to college to give me that advice. Oh, well. Anyway, you've been listening to Real Answers, a Wednesday feature of the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues important to families with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Thanks as always, Chris.
My pleasure, Mark.
All right, great stuff today. Got a kid of my own heading off to college for the very first time in just a couple of weeks. So some really practical stuff there. And you can download all our Real Answer podcasts online anytime. Go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or our website, familylife.org.
A very good afternoon to all. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Some beneficial rains have been falling in parts of the area today. Beneficial to the extent that we've become parched, in some cases bordering drought. Of course, there also have been a few thunderstorms, and always be sure to seek a safe shelter when you hear thunder. Cold front will pass the area tonight, and a return to some drier, more comfortable air will follow. For this afternoon into tonight, variably cloudy and muggy. Couple of showers and thunderstorms around, high in the 80s, a low in the 60s. Tomorrow, could still be a shower, central and eastern Pennsylvania and south central New York, but some sun mixing in with lowering humidity. High temps, upper 70s to mid 80s. Beauty on Friday, lots of sunshine, low humidity, and a high temperature in the lower 80s.
All right, great work. Thank you, Kevin. Finally, at noon, we celebrate the Southpaw, those among us who are left-handed.
What do Mother Teresa, Charlie Chaplin, and Albert Einstein all have in common? Well, besides being notable individuals, they're all left-handed. Today is International Left-Handers Day. Founded in 1976, the aim of the day was to create awareness of the advantages and disadvantages of left-handedness. The Left-Handers Club was founded in the 1990s with a mission of serving as a bridge between the views of left-handers and manufacturers. The holiday is now celebrated worldwide, including sports matches and parties. So whether you're left-handed or right-handed, take time today to appreciate your unique talents and abilities, no matter what side they may come from. Brian Query, Family Life News.
All right, thank you, Brian. And just like that, our time is up. That's our world. The world we live in, Wednesday, the 13th of August. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.